I remember the day I met him like it was yesterday. College was buzzing with the start of a new semester, and there I was, an eager young thing with a sketchbook under my arm, dreaming of becoming a top-notch designer. Then there was him, Jake, all charm and big dreams, talking loudly about changing the world one election at a time. We clicked instantly, two ambitious souls, not a care in the world except our future. "Hey, you're in my intro to design class, right?" he had asked me, his grin wide as he caught up to me on the campus walkway. "Yeah, that's me," trying to make sense of it all, I shot back, a playful edge to my voice. "Jake, and I get it. But hey, if you ever need a study buddy or someone to run ideas by, I'm your guy." His confidence was something else, almost enough to make you forget he was just a student like me. From then on, it was us against the world. Nights spent over coffee and textbooks, him rambling about political theories while I doodled in the margins of my notes. We were a team, and nothing felt impossible. "I'm telling you, Anita, we're gonna make it big. You'll be designing national galleries, and I'll be right there, maybe as governor, making sure the arts get the funding they deserve," he'd declare on those long nights, his eyes shining with a mixture of ambition and naivety. "And what about kids? White picket fence?" I'd tease, watching his face. He'd wave a dismissive hand. "Nah, not for us. We've got bigger plans. Who needs a fence when you can have the whole city?" It was all very romantic, in a youthful, dream big kind of way. We married before graduation, a small ceremony with just a few friends and family. It felt right, like we were setting off on an adventure together, not just tying the knot. As newlyweds, we were unstoppable. Jake quickly moved up from an assistant to the governor's aide to the head of the Department of Parks and Recreation. It seemed every month brought a new accolade or a step up the career ladder for him. He was a natural, shaking hands and kissing babies, always in the spotlight. At home, it was different. "How was your day?" became our routine conversation starter. "Busy as hell. Meetings back to back." "What about you, babe? How's the design world treating you?" I'd shrug, keeping it light. "Oh, just another day of picking colors and convincing clients I know best." He'd laugh, but his eyes were often distant, mine still at work. I didn't mind, I understood. We were both hustling, after all. One evening, I came home, my mind buzzing from clinching a major deal that would put our department at the forefront of the industry. I was tired, my shoulders aching from the weight of my laptop bag and the day's stresses. Jake was already home, something that had become rarer these days. I clinched the Johnson account. The presentation went off without a hitch, I announced, hoping to share a piece of my day, looking for a flicker of shared excitement. "That's nice, babe," Jake said, not looking up from his papers scattered around the living room. "Listen, since you had a lighter day, could you fix dinner? I'm swamped. Meetings back to back, and I barely had lunch." I paused at the doorway, my coat half off, the words "lighter day" echoing in my head. Lighter day, Jake? It was an 8-hour showdown to secure a deal that boosts our entire fiscal year. He finally looked up, his eyes meeting mine with a shrug. "Yeah, but it's not like you're out there in the trenches, right? It's all just picking colors and convincing people to like your ideas." The dismissive tone stung more than I expected. "It's a bit more than that, Jake. This was a big win for us." Sure, he muttered, turning back to his papers. "But really, can you handle dinner? I'm beat." The conversation left a bitter taste in my mouth as I headed to the kitchen, my triumph overshadowed by his offhand remarks. Weeks passed, and the pattern continued. I was making strides at work, each step up the ladder marked by an increase in responsibility and income. The day I found out my salary had surpassed Jake's was a day of mixed feelings. I wanted to share it with him, but I hesitated, knowing his current state of mind. Finally, one night at dinner, I broached the topic, trying to keep it light. "With the new accounts I brought in, it looks like I might be out-earning you this year." "Funny, huh?" Jake put down his fork, his expression unreadable. "Really? That's how you're going to bring it up?" I frowned, puzzled by his tone. Bring what up, Jake? It's good news. It means we're doing well, both of us. It's not we, Anita. It's you. And now I need to find a way to step up. I can't have people thinking I can't provide. I reached across the table, trying to bridge the gap his words had created. Jake, it's not a competition. It's our money, for our future. He pulled his hand back, shaking his head. It's not that simple. You don't get it. This is important to me. His words felt like a slap, dismissing not just my efforts, but our partnership. I thought we were in this together, Jake. When did it become just about you? Since I started being the one left behind, he shot back, his voice rising. You're there with your fancy deals and now out-earning me? What does that make me? It makes you my husband, I said, my voice soft but firm. Not my competitor. Jake scoffed, standing up abruptly. I need to think about this. Maybe look into other options, something that pays better. I watched him go, feeling the chasm widen. It wasn't just about money or success. It was about respect, understanding, and support, things that were becoming rarer in our conversations. That night, I lay in bed, turning over the day's conversation. It felt like we were worlds apart, living under the same roof, but walking different paths. I knew something had to give, but at that moment, I wasn't sure what or how. What I did know was that I couldn't let his insecurities dictate my success or our happiness. But fixing that was a puzzle I hadn't figured out yet. 15 years into our marriage, our life was a testament to outward success, a beautiful house, shiny cars, properties here and there, and bank accounts that would make anyone envious. But not everything that glitters is gold, and for Jake, it seemed the sheen was definitely starting to tarnish. He had been with the Natural Resources Agency for a good while, but his career was like a car stuck in mud, spinning its wheels but going nowhere. I'd listened to him rant after another long, liquor-tinged evening. It's all rigged, Anita. The jobs I deserve are going to guys who can't tell a policy from a pancake. It's all about who you know, or who you, well, you know. He'd grumble, tipping back another drink. I tried to offer solutions, not just a sympathetic ear. Have you thought about seeing someone? A therapist could help, I suggested one night as I cleared the dinner dishes, his glass needing a refill. Jake slammed his fist down on the table, making the cutlery jump. I don't need a shrink, Anita. The problem isn't in my head. It's in the corruption and cronyism I have to deal with every day. But maybe talking to someone could help you cope better, or even strategize how to get around those obstacles. I persisted, feeling the weight of his frustration as my own. Just drop it, will you? I know my job. What I need is for the system to change, not my mindset. His anger was a wall I couldn't penetrate, no matter how I tried. So, I focused on what I could control, my own career. I was making waves, leading my team in international exhibitions, my designs becoming the face of major contracts. My opinion mattered at work, I was respected, and it felt damn good. But as I flourished, Jake recoiled even more. He stopped accompanying me to any work events, especially the big, glitzy ones where my achievements were front and center. Why don't you come to the gala tomorrow night? I asked him one evening, trying to keep my tone light. It would mean a lot to me. Plus, the CEO will be there, you could make some connections. Jake looked up from his laptop, his face set in a stubborn line. And what? Stand around while everyone congratulates you? I'm pretty sure they just see me as Mr. Anita these days. That's not true, I countered, feeling a pang in my heart. You're my husband, Jake. You're your own person, and they respect that. He scoffed, closing his laptop with a snap. Right, Anita. To them, I'm just the guy who carries your purse. No thanks. I've got better things to do. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. I was proud of what I'd achieved, but I wanted my partner by my side, sharing in the success, not resenting it. The next day, as I put on my evening dress, looking in the mirror, I felt a mix of excitement and sadness. My reflection showed a woman who had everything she'd ever wanted professionally, but personally, there was a gaping hole where her husband's support should be. I went alone, as I had started to do more often. The gala was a blur of congratulations, handshakes, and bright smiles. I accepted the accolades and spoke about my latest designs, but each time I saw a couple together, laughing or sharing a quiet moment, my heart ached. Returning home, I found Jake on the couch, a bottle in hand, not even pretending to have waited up. The clock was ticking past 9 p.m. as I rushed out of the conference room, my phone dead from the day's back-to-back meetings. My mind was racing with the discussions we'd had, but a nagging thought about Jake waiting at home made my heart race faster. We hadn't spoken since the morning, and I knew he'd be wondering where I was. I drove home as quickly as I could, rehearsing an apology in my mind. But when I walked through the front door, the cold look in Jake's eyes told me no apology would suffice tonight. "You're late," he stated flatly, his voice edged with accusation as he sat in the dimly lit living room. "I'm sorry, Jake. The meeting ran over, and my phone died. I didn't get a chance to call." I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, my voice weary. "Meeting, huh? Or should I say your little party with the bosses?" His words were sharp, his eyes narrowing. I was taken aback. "What are you talking about? It was just a regular business meeting, Jake." "Sure it was. I bet it's all those late nights with them that got you where you are. Not your talent, just playing up to the bosses." His voice was bitter, and he took a swig from the bottle next to him. My cheeks flushed with anger and disbelief. "You think I got my promotions by, what? Sleeping around? How can you even say that?" He laughed, a harsh sound that filled the room. "Oh, come on, Anita. It's obvious. Why else would they promote you, a woman, over others?" The accusation stung, and I felt a mix of hurt and fury. I earned my position with hard work and talent. It's disgusting that you'd think so low of me. Jake stood up abruptly, his body swaying slightly. "You're never here. Always working, leaving me alone. And we don't even have kids, because you're too busy with your career." His words were like slaps, each one hitting hard. "I can't believe you're blaming me for no kids. We agreed on this, Jake. And my career is not an excuse for your unhappiness or failures." He stepped closer, his voice rising. "My failures? No, Anita, they're because I married someone who cares more about her job than her husband. You've ruined everything." I tried to keep my voice calm. "Jake, this isn't us. We're both upset. Maybe we should talk about this in the morning when you're sober." "No, I'm done. I need to be alone." He grabbed his keys and headed toward the door. "Jake, wait." But he was already gone, the door slamming behind him. I tried calling him several times, but it went straight to voicemail. Alone in the house, I wandered from room to room, each one echoing with the ghost of earlier, happier times. I couldn't sleep, the couch cold and unwelcoming, his accusations replaying in my mind. The morning after Jake stormed out, I dragged myself to work. My eyes were red from a sleepless night, my mind swirling with the harsh words and the slam of the door echoing in my ears. I was on autopilot, nodding and smiling where needed, but inside, I felt like I was crumbling. Mid-morning, my boss called me into his office. I straightened my blazer and tried to compose myself, wiping away the last traces of tears. "Anita, I've got something that might interest you," he said, his tone more upbeat than I could handle at that moment. "How would you like to head our new project in Milan? It's a big opportunity, international exposure, leading a team. I thought of you immediately." Milan. Italy had always been a dream, one of those places I'd promised myself I'd visit, one way or another. Under different circumstances, I would have jumped at the chance, no second thoughts. "That sounds incredible, sir," I managed, a genuine smile breaking through the fog of my sadness. "It's actually a dream of mine to work in Milan." "Great. I knew you'd be excited. Think it over, and let me know your decision." Returning home, I found Jake sitting at the kitchen table, looking sober but somber. The air between us was thick with unsaid words. I hesitated at the doorway, then decided to breach the silence. Jake, we need to talk. I was offered a major project today. It's in Milan, I began, watching his reaction closely. He looked up, his face hardening. Milan, huh? And what, you're just going to go? It's a big deal for my career, Jake. It could change everything for us, for me. I want to take it. I tried to keep my voice steady, assertive. Us? There's no us in this, Anita. It's always about you and your career. His voice rose, a bitter edge slicing through the quiet of the kitchen. I'm still the same person, Jake. I'm still your wife. Why can't you see this as something good for both of us? I pleaded, hoping for some sliver of understanding. There is no both of us if you choose to go to Milan. It's me or the job, Anita. Decide. His ultimatum hung in the air, stark and cold. Why do you make me choose, Jake? Why can't you be happy for me? My voice cracked, frustration and pain bubbling up. Because I need to know where I stand. Either you're with me, or you're there, living your dream without me. He was yelling now, his face red with anger. I took a deep breath, my mind made up, heart aching. I choose Milan. I have to do this, Jake, not just for my career, but for myself. Jake stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the tile floor. He stormed to our bedroom and came back with a stack of papers, divorce papers. Slamming them down on the table, he met my eyes with a cold finality. Then this is it, Anita. If you go, we're done. I stared at the papers, then at him, my heart sinking. But something inside me hardened. I couldn't give up on my dreams, not even for him. The next week was a blur. I signed the papers, packed my bags, and before I knew it, I was on a plane to Milan. The city was beautiful, a picturesque postcard at every turn. I was often on TV, discussing the project, my face a mask of professionalism, hiding the turmoil inside. Despite the excitement, my thoughts drifted back to Jake, to the possibility of fixing things. But each time I picked up my phone to call, I remembered his ultimatum, and my resolve strengthened. Stepping back into the house after 2 weeks in Milan felt surreal. But there he was, Jake, sitting on the sofa as if the past month had been just a minor hiccup. Anita, you're back. Come here, he said, rising from the couch with open arms, a forced smile plastered across his face. I approached, but kept my distance, the memories of his ultimatums and threats too fresh to allow any closer. Jake, we can't just pretend nothing happened. You gave me an ultimatum, remember? Me or the job? He waved a dismissive hand, his voice light. Oh, that. I was just stressed, you know? But I've had time to think, and I'm willing to start over. I'm ready to forgive you, as long as you agree to make some changes. My eyebrows shot up. Forgive me? For what, exactly? For following my career? And what changes are you talking about? Jake's expression hardened slightly. You know, Anita, quit your job, focus on us. If you'd just listen and do as I say, we could go back to how things were. It hit me then, the sheer absurdity and manipulation in his words. I felt a mix of anger and relief, anger at his audacity, and relief that I was finally seeing the manipulation for what it was. You can't be serious, Jake. You're asking me to give up everything I've worked for. You know I can't do that. He laughed, a tight, cold sound. It was worth a shot. But I thought you'd see sense. Guess I was wrong. I reached into my bag, pulling out the divorce papers, the ones he had thrown at me before I left. I signed these, Jake. I thought you were serious about the divorce. Seems I was right. His smile faltered, and he snatched the papers from my hand. This was just a joke, Anita. Can't you take a joke? A joke? I stared at him, incredulous. Threatening divorce was a joke? You're unbelievable. Jake's face turned red, his voice rising. You're making a huge mistake, Anita. You'll regret this. I won't let you just walk away and ruin everything. I'm not ruining anything. I'm saving myself, I said firmly. You've made it clear where I stand with you. It's time for me to move on. He stood, towering over me, his voice venomous. Fine. But you're not taking anything from here. This is my house, my things. You leave with nothing. I'll make sure everyone knows how you got to the top. I'll destroy you. Try it, and it'll backfire, I said calmly, though my heart was pounding. I've done nothing wrong. My conscience is clear. I went to our bedroom, packed a suitcase with essentials, some clothes, my design portfolios, personal documents. The rest didn't matter. I could replace things, but I couldn't replace peace of mind or self-respect. The morning after leaving the house, I made my way to my lawyer's office, my mind a whirlwind of emotions and plans. Walking into Mr. Carter's office, I found him looking over some papers, his glasses perched on the tip of his nose. He looked up, his expression serious. Anita, good to see you. Please, have a seat. Tell me everything. I took a deep breath and started recounting the recent events, not omitting the harsh words and threats Jake had hurled at me. And then he told me he'd make sure I wouldn't get a penny and would ruin my reputation, I concluded, my voice steadier than I felt. Mr. Carter's brow furrowed as he listened, jotting down notes. We need to take this seriously, Anita. Have you considered hiring a private investigator? We might find something that could help us in court. A bitter laugh escaped my lips, surprising even me. I'm ahead of you there, Mr. Carter. I hired one a few months ago, when things started to really go downhill. I didn't trust what was happening behind my back. Reaching into my bag, I pulled out a folder, thick with documents and photos, and handed it to him. Everything's in here. Turns out, Jake has been more than just verbally abusive. Mr. Carter opened the folder and began to examine the contents meticulously. His expression changed from concerned to outright shocked as he sifted through the photographs and reports. Anita, this is solid evidence. He's been taking bribes for approving certain city projects. And this, he pointed at a photo, shows him with his assistant at a not-so-professional event. Yes. And she's been more than just an assistant for quite a while, I added, feeling a mix of vindication and sorrow. Mr. Carter leaned back, pressing his fingers together, looking at me over his glasses. This changes everything. We not only have a strong case for the divorce on grounds of infidelity, but possibly more. His threats against you and this evidence could sway things significantly in your favor. The days leading up to the trial were tense. Jake's calls became more frequent and desperate. He alternated between begging me to come back and cursing my name. Each voicemail, each missed call, I saved and documented. The proceedings began, and Mr. Carter was relentless. Your Honor, we have substantial evidence here not only of Mr. Thompson's infidelity, which has devastated my client, but also of his illegal activities related to his position at the Natural Resources Agency. Jake's face went pale as Mr. Carter laid out photo after photo, document after document, all while recounting the threats he'd made against me. When it was finally Jake's turn, he tried to dismiss the claims. These are all baseless accusations. She's trying to ruin my career because she's jealous. The judge looked over the rim of her glasses, unimpressed. We have substantial evidence before us, Mr. Thompson. Can you explain these transactions and these photographs? His voice faltered, his usual charm failing him under the weight of undeniable proof. I was just doing my job. Those photos are out of context. But it was too late. The evidence was overwhelming. After a brief deliberation, the judge spoke, her voice firm and clear. Given the evidence presented, I am awarding Mrs. Thompson financial compensation for the distress caused by the infidelity and threats. The division of property will be equal. With the past finally behind me, I threw myself into my work with a passion that hadn't felt this raw and real in years. Before I knew it, my dedication paid off. I was offered the position of creative director. It was a dream come true, a position I had eyed for years. I was out celebrating this new chapter at a cozy little bistro downtown with my closest friend, Laura, when my phone buzzed. The screen showed Jake's name, a sight that no longer caused my heart to skip in dread. "Ugh, it's Jake," I muttered, showing Laura the phone. "Are you going to answer it?" she asked, her eyebrow raised in that all too familiar, "Are you serious?" look. Curiosity got the better of me, and I answered. "What do you want, Jake?" "Hey, Anita. I've been thinking. I realized I made a huge mistake. Can we meet? I'd like to talk about maybe starting over." Jake's voice came through the speaker, a mix of desperation and something that sounded feebly like sincerity. I couldn't help it, I burst into laughter. It wasn't a joyful sound, more of a "can you believe this guy" kind of laugh. "Start over? Really, Jake? After everything?" "It's all changed, Anita. I got fired. She took everything, even the job. And now, she won't give back the gifts either. I'm left with nothing." He blurted out, the words tumbling over each other in his haste. I shook my head, still chuckling. "So, let me get this straight. You want to start over because she dumped you and took your job? That's rich, Jake. You don't understand. I've changed, Anita. I really have," he pleaded. "Jake, even if that's true, I've moved on. I'm a creative director now, and my life is full and happy without you. There's no place for you in it anymore," I said, the finality in my voice mirroring the resolve in my heart. "But Anita. I wish you the best, Jake. Goodbye." I ended the call, blocked his number, and turned off my phone. Laura was looking at me, a proud smile spreading across her face. "You really are over him, aren't you?" she said, lifting her wine glass in a toast. "Completely," I confirmed, clinking her glass with mine. "To new beginnings, and to being in charge of my own happiness." The next day, feeling empowered and in need of companionship that asked for nothing but love in return, I decided it was time to expand my little family. I went to the local shelter, where a scruffy terrier mix caught my eye. He was a little older, a bit rough around the edges, much like me. It felt right, adopting him. I named him Buddy, a friend who I knew would offer loyalty without conditions. Life was good. It was real, it was mine, and it was filled with possibilities. I had made it through the storm, and now, I was not just surviving, I was thriving.